Welcome to Rejecting the Alpha, a werewolf story by Barry Wiles. Chapter 13. I smiled to myself as my boyfriend of 3 years, Kyan Adams, since freshman year took my hand in his and held open the door for me. We had just gotten back from a date of playing laser tag, and we both were exhausted. I had fun tonight. Playing laser tag with you is fun, even though I've won every single game we played. I grinned up at him, who returned the grin. He closed the front door behind me as we stepped into his living room. Me too. We take a seat on his couch. It was really quiet in his house, and there was no cars in the driveway. Your parents aren't home? I asked as he draped an arm over my shoulder and pulled me into his side. Nope, he said, smirking before leaning down and capturing my lips with his. Our lips moved in sync, as if this was normal. We have made out numerous times in this relationship that this all is normal. Things got a little heated when his tongue dove into my mouth. Our breaths quickened. He gently pushed me back and straddled my waist, not breaking the kiss. I pulled away to catch my breath, but Kyan continued to kiss me. Babe, I tried, but he silenced me. His hand started to unbutton my shirt. This was going too far. Usually we would just make out. We haven't had sex yet, but he hasn't pushed me into something I wasn't ready for. Babe, what are you doing? I asked. My voice was breathless as he kissed down my neck. He doesn't say anything but pulled my shirt off my shoulders, leaving me in my bra. Next, he started to unbutton my jeans. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time was all he said before he pulled my pants down. He started undoing his before I quickly sat up. No, I'm not ready. You know that. I make a move to grab my clothes, but he pushes me backwards, but with a little more force. What is happening? He isn't himself. I squirm underneath him, but he just grabs my wrists and pins them above my head. He then uses one of his hands and started pulling his pants down. Tears sprung my eyes. No, this can't be happening. My boyfriend, who has been making me happy all this time, is taking advantage of me. I know that he wouldn't do this, but at this point I'm so confused. Is he trying to throw away everything? He is my only friend who knows that I am a werewolf. He's the only human I trust. Wait, hold on, I'm a werewolf. I can take this guy and shouldn't act weak. I used my strength to try to push him off of me. I'm not all that strong, so he stumbled back only a little, but to my surprise, he pulled out rope from under the couch. My eyes went wide when I noticed it had silver wrapped into it. Kyan, my voice was filled with fear. He looked back over to me with a smirk on his face and an evil glint in his eyes. You know, I've had this for a while. Wasn't sure when to use this if you didn't comply in having sex with me. Even if it took 3 years, I'm sure it would be worth it. Tears were now pouring down my face. This guy played me. All of those times where I thought I had someone who loves me was just a joke. I hissed out in pain as the rope came in contact with my wrists. Kyan only laughed at my response to the silver. I struggled underneath him, but his grip on my wrist was extremely tight that it hurt a lot. It'll probably leave bruises. Please stop. I cried out through tears as he tied the rope tightly around my wrists, binding them together. Now I was sobbing because of the pain of the silver and the fact that I was probably about to be raped. Shut up, he growled as he slapped me across the face, causing me to become quiet. A waterfall of tears flowed down my cheeks as I let out a choked sob. He then took advantage of my state and took my innocence away. It was extremely painful, nothing gentle about it. Just a long, agonizing bang that scarred me for life and made me fear becoming attached again. I headed out of my English classroom with the bathroom pass dangling from my fingers. I was glad that I was able to escape that horrible lecture my teacher was giving about how poorly we all did on our test. The halls were empty, only a single person here and there, most likely skipping class. I entered the girls' bathroom. There was one girl in there washing her hands. She acknowledged me by nodding her head, which I returned the gesture. I didn't have to use the restroom. I just wanted a way to get out of my class. The girl left, leaving me alone in the bathroom. I let out a sigh of relief before staring at my reflection. My black straight hair was pulled into a braid, while I had on a simple red plaid shirt unbuttoned, a black tank top, skinny jeans, and white Converse. There are a couple werewolves here, but they are well hidden. I'm not friends with any of them, except for Serena and Anthony. The three of us have kept our secret well hidden from our circle of friends to keep us safe. The sound of the bathroom door opening and caused me to glance at it through the mirror. My stomach tightened when I saw Kyan's reflection in the mirror, along with some of his friends that used to be mine, too. But of course they were all in it. Well, look who it is. He spoke with a dark look on his face with a smirk to top it all. The little tramp who opened her legs for me. It was great. Really, you truly have a talent. My throat tightened at his words, and anger coursed through me. I didn't do it willingly. A swipe? I would never. And I'm sure all the other girls you played probably agree with me on this one. But you definitely lack that talent. I shot back, adding a smirk at the end. The guys all owed, while Kyan looked like he wanted to murder me. I decided to make things even worse by also adding, "You should probably get your dick checked out. I didn't know one could be that small." Kyan stood there fuming. His jaw was clenched, and he didn't hesitate to grab me roughly and push my back painfully against the sink. I struggled against him and sent a blow to his face. He let out a cry of pain as my knuckles connected roughly with his eye. Immediately, the rest of the guys grabbed a hold of me. There was 5 of them, not counting Kyan. I was definitely in deep shit. "You bitch." Kyan spat as a bruise was starting to form around his eye. I felt satisfied with the pain that I've caused him. I smirked as he winced and placed a hand over his eye. I was caught off guard when my cheek was stinging. He slapped me. I only punch him because he's harassing me. This asshole. I can't believe I loved him. My heart clenched at those words, but then I remembered that I would have a mate. I felt on edge at the thought of a mate. There is only one thing that I feel when I think about mates. Fear. "Did you really hit me?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. The pain quickly subsided because I am a werewolf after all. "Are you really that pathetic?" I know I'm digging myself deeper into a hole, but he needs to hear the truth. I then received a blow to my cheek. I gasped for air as he then delivered one to my stomach. "Shut up, you slut," he said through gritted teeth. My cheeks felt wet as my body ached with pain as I received another punch to my face. Next thing I knew, the guy to my right started feeling me up and down. Some other guys started to also. Shit, is this going to be a repeat? Fear filled my body as I internally started freaking out. A smirk appeared on Kyan's lips as he watched. "Maybe we should have some fun?" My eyes widened as I felt hands on my body. "No. Stop." I cried out. This is like deja vu. It seemed all too familiar, and it scared the hell out of me. Kyan sent someone to make sure no one came into the bathroom. It all happened so fast once again. All of my clothes were ripped off of me, and I was touched in ways that I never wanted to be touched. All of the guys who I was friends with sexually harassed me and touched me. It was all too much to take in. It was all painful, no pleasure, and I was glad. No girl should go through what I am. My vision was blurred, my tears, and I cried. My mouth was taped shut so no one would hear me. I couldn't mind link anyone in the pack, because Kyan had the familiar rope from that one night 3 months before. Memories of my past years with Kyan flashed in my mind, which made me cry harder. My body slumped against the wall as my face felt dry and stiff because of my dried-up tears. My eyes were puffy, and I felt exhausted and dehydrated. I gave up trying to break the chains a long time ago. It's probably been at least 6 hours. Either he forgot about me, or he doesn't give a shit. My stomach hungered for food. I could eat anything right now. It's probably about 10 or something at night. My eyes began to droop as I began to slip unconscious, but the sound of the door being unlocked caught my attention. I didn't bother looking up from the ground, but my mate's scent hit my nose. I heard the sound of footsteps approaching me, but I didn't look up. I kept my eyes focused on the ground in front of me. Shoes came in my line of vision, but I still didn't look up. Look up. My mate's voice filled my ears. Slowly I looked up. My eyes locked with my mate's green ones. There was a quick flash of guilt in his eyes, but it disappeared quickly. "Do you understand what happens when you disrespect your alpha?" he asked, his voice stern. I narrowed my eyes at him. "Yes, Alpha." I spat at him. His eyes grew dark before he took a key out of his pocket and unlocked the chains. My hands dropped my sides, and it felt weird. I tried standing up, but wobbled as I tried to steady myself. I felt a hand grip onto my arm to help me, but I carefully ripped my arm away without having Parker get mad at me. I headed out the door without waiting for Parker. He doesn't deserve my weight, and my wolf fully agreed with me. "Listen, Jasmine," Parker began. I didn't look back, but said quietly, "Stay away from me." I then walked out without turning back. A wash of emotions ran through me, and I felt more tears well in my eyes, but I quickly wiped them away. I need to be strong. I need to be strong. Don't be weak. Stay strong. Don't be weak. Chapter 14. I walked into the kitchen with an angry look on my face. I heard a door slam shut and knew that Parker had probably went into his office. Not caring what the hell he was doing, I swung open a cabinet with the Twizzlers in it and pulled out another package. I took it to my room and settled on my bed. Anger filled me as I thought back to before causing me to angrily chew on my Twizzler. I really need to shift and take a run. I stood up from my bed and placed the package onto my nightstand before handing for my door and closing it behind me. I walked down the stairs to the front door. Maybe I should wait till morning. I have no clue what's outside at this time. Deciding to wait till morning, I went into the living room. I sat down on the couch and laid down on my side. Moonlight shone through the window and lit up the dark room. My eyes started feeling heavy as I let out a big yawn. I felt so exhausted from everything that happened today. I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched, but that didn't stop me from slipping into a deep sleep and didn't wake up until morning. My eyes slowly opened. I was blinded by the light shining through my bedroom. I hissed as I buried my face into my pillows. My pillows. I turned my head and allowed my eyes to focus on my surroundings. I sat up in my bed. I'm in my room. How did I get here? I was still in my clothes from yesterday, and I smelled like shit. I push my covers off of me and get off my bed. I lazily walk into my bathroom like a zombie and cringe when I see my reflection in the mirror. My hair looked like a lion's mane, and the little makeup I had on was smudged, making me look scary. My eyes had that puffy look to it that you get when you wake up, and I could practically smell my morning breath without even opening my mouth. I took out my toothbrush and quickly brushed my teeth before using mouthwash. I then attempted to brush out my hair. I winced whenever I pulled at some knots. When it was finally all brushed out, I turned and started up the shower. It was a really nice shower, might I add. I've never seen anything like it. I turned the handle to turn the shower on and jumped when the water started coming from the top of the shower. Shrugging, I peeled off my clothes and hopped it. I sighed with pleasure as the hot water poured down my back. I picked up my shampoo, Redken Nature's Rescue Shampoo. I don't like the flowery or vanilla scent shampoos. I love the nature-scented things. It's so calming. I've tried many different shampoos. This is the one I've got right now. I scrubbed the shampoo into my scalp and made sure to scrub it into all of my hair. I then rinsed it out and grabbed my conditioner. After cleaning my hair, I got my body wash and scrubbed it on my body. I spent a while just standing in the shower and thinking about life. At some point, I started singing to myself. The song me, myself, and I was what came to my head first. I sang the lyrics while I turned the water off and grabbed my towel and put it around my body. I exited the shower and the cold air hit me. Oh, it's just me, myself, and I, solo ride until I die. 'Cause I got me for life. I sang as I dried my body off. I dried off my legs and my back. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My hair was still dripping wet, but I didn't care. I tossed my towel over the bathtub. A low growl filled my ears. I turned my head to the cracked door and narrowed my eyes. No one was there. I walked over the door and peeked out, and no one was in my room. I sniffed the air and could smell my mate's scent. That bastard! Was he spying on me? My cheeks flushed as I realized that my mate probably saw me naked. Quickly, I picked my towel back up and wrapped it around my body just in case. Parker Mason. I stared tiredly at the papers scattered across my desk. I never get a break. It's so stressful. I ran my fingers through my hair before leaning on my elbows. I've been working all night. I never get sleep around here. I adjusted my glasses on my face as I read the next file that I had. Alpha. A voice said through the mind link. I immediately knew it was my beta, Xander. I took my glasses off my face. What is it, beta? I asked with slight irritation in my voice. We found rogues entering our territory toward the east. We have captured them, and they are waiting to be questioned, Alpha. An annoyed growl escaped me. Rogues are good-for-nothing mutts. They deserve to be taken care of, and that's what I do best. I smirked at the thought before standing up from my desk and exited my office. As I walked down the hall, I heard the sound of water running. Temptation overcame me, caused me to grip the door handle and quietly turn it. I slowly peeked in and noticed she wasn't in her room. The thought of my mate showering all naked with water dripping down her body caused my jeans to tighten as I grew hard. Damn, I need a cold shower right now. I then started imagining joining her, which didn't help. I then noticed the bathroom door was cracked. Take a peek. My perverted wolf urged. Without even thinking, I stepped into her room and was welcomed by her earthy nature scent. It was addictive to smell. There was a faint hint of a fruity smell that blended in well with it all. As I neared, I could hear the sound of Jasmine's voice singing softly as she showered. The sound of her voice sent chills down my spine. The familiar lyrics filled my ears. As quiet as I could, I allowed my eyes to glance inside the bathroom. Shit, this is so wrong. I love it. I felt my stomach tighten and my heart to beat faster as my eyes focused on my mate who was currently in the shower not caring about the world. She looked so content. My eyes drifted down her body, causing my eyes to darken. Holy shit. I took in all of her curves that I so badly wanted to touch. She turned off the water, which caused my heart rate to pick up more speed. I watched as she pulled a towel around her body. Immediately, I felt disappointed that she covered up her body. I wanted to see more. But to my luck, she started drying off her body. I watched as she tried off her tan legs. My eyes drifted to her chest. They were big and so tempting to grab, which caused it to grow impossibly harder. Damn, it's going to take me a while to get rid of this. But this wasn't the end. I watched her pull the towel off her body and turn to toss it onto the tub, which caused her to get a full view of her ass. And that was it. A lustful growl escaped me. Jasmine now looked alerted as her eyes darted towards the door. With my werewolf speed, I stepped away from the door and was out her room. She knows I was in there. I know that she knows. Damn, our mate is sexy as hell, my wolf commented as I headed to where I originally was going. But the image of my mate never left my head. His statement couldn't be any more true. I felt guilty for the way I treated her, but she needs to learn her damn place. She doesn't need to be so difficult. And the only way to get her to listen and respect me is to punish her. I do not tolerate disrespect toward me. I guess it's my alpha pride getting the best of me. Not that I'm complaining or anything. I exited out of my house and shifted into my firewood-colored wolf and took off into the woods toward the pack jail where those savages are kept. When the building came to view, I shifted back to my human form and put on a pair of jeans, not bothering to put on a shirt. I entered the horrid place and was greeted by the revolting smell of rotten flesh. "Alpha," Xander greeted me. I turned towards him and smirked. "Where are they?" "Right this way, Alpha," he responded with a matching smirk, and then guided me to the corridors. Jasmine Davis. I felt extremely violated. He was here, there is no doubt. My wolf didn't see the issue here, but I did. His scent was strong in here. So my mate saw me. I feel really embarrassed. Maybe he was disappointed. Maybe he's had many side flings who look way better than me. "Stop worrying, Jamie," Irene said to me. "This is so unlike you. You never worry about our looks." I rolled my eyes at her, but she was right. I never worry about my looks. However, this is my mate. I guess it's natural that I'm worrying around my mate. But I shouldn't, I told myself. I had on a hoodie and a pair of yoga pants. I exited my room and was met by silence. He probably left. I rolled my eyes before heading down the stairs. Not even Logan was here. I went into the kitchen and took out a giant box of plain Cheerios. Seriously? Is this all he has? I really need to go to the store and get more food without getting a bowl. I take the box with me to the living room and just flop down and start munching on them. Why is it so boring here? I want to do something. I could always go for that run that I've been wanting to do. "Shift," Irene pleaded. I could tell she wanted to be let free. So I decided to go for that run. After finishing the whole box of Cheerios, I went outside and peeled off my clothes behind a tree and shifted into my midnight black wolf. I sniffed the air and took off in the direction of the many different scents of werewolves. Chapter 15. My eyes settled onto what looked like the pack house and all the members' houses surrounding it. There were buildings and shops lining streets. I shifted back and pulled on my clothes before deciding to look around and take in everything around me. As I walked by members, they were chatting, laughing, and socializing with each other. Everything seemed so normal. Some people gave me odd looks saying, "Oh, you're new," or "Who are you?" and stuff like that. I smiled as I saw pups running around and being scolded by their mothers. "Watch out." A feminine voice called out to me. I snapped my head forward just in time to crash into someone. A groan escaped my lips as my head came in contact with the sidewalk. "Shit, I'm so sorry." The person apologized repeatedly as I glanced up to see who this person was. A smile formed on my lips as I recognized a familiar girl with caramel-colored hair. "It's fine," I assured her as I stood up. Her eyes widened with realization as she recognized. "Jasmine, it's so good to see you again." The girl greeted me as she pulled me into a hug. When we pulled away, I sent her a smile. "Good to see you again, Winter." My eyebrows then knitted together in confusion. I didn't think she was a part of the Lunar Shadow pack. Didn't she say she was from the Dawnfall Sky pack or something like that? Winter must have heard my thoughts because she smiled sadly. I found my mate. My eyebrows furrowed. Shouldn't she be happy that she found her mate? "Who is he?" I asked curiously. "His name is Xander. He's the beta. I guess we both got unlucky and got mates from the Lunar Shadow pack," she answered. I nodded my head, understanding why she wasn't too happy. "We both are probably being punished for something we did. How's it working for you?" Winter opened her mouth hesitantly. "I don't know," she said honestly. "He's closed off, I guess. He doesn't really talk to me. Sometimes he acknowledges me. Sometimes he doesn't. I want to get to know him. I mean, he is my mate after all. But What's the point if he won't even let me in? I just stared at her as her words settled in my head. That is similar to my situation with Parker, except I'm also being hard-headed just like him. I have a reason. I want to know his. I know what you mean. It's the same for Parker and I, except I'm not making it any easier, I mumbled. Winter nodded her head. I didn't realize we were walking until Winter stopped in front of the cafe. She turned to me. The food here is amazing. You should try it. She then grabbed my wrist and dragged me inside, earning a laugh from me. I lazily opened the front door to Parker's house, exhausted from taking in everything. Winter dragged me around and took me into many different stores. I needed to sit down. As soon as I closed the door, my back was slammed into it. I gasped as air was knocked out of me. My eyes locked with a pair of angry green ones. Where were you? Parker growled as his large hands pinned my small wrist against the door. I opened my mouth to respond, but he continued. Do you not listen? You're supposed to tell me where you go, and you can only go with my permission. My mouth fell open as anger overcame me. You weren't even here. How was I supposed to ask for permission if you weren't here? I snapped as I tried wiggling out his grip. His grip tightened, causing me to grip my teeth. Parker stayed silent, and I knew that he knew I was right. I couldn't help but give him a smug look. Parker stared at me angrily before he leaned closer towards my ear. I could feel his warm breath hit my skin, which caused me to shiver. I so badly wanted to feel his lips on it, but I quickly brushed the thoughts away. Don't make me lock you in your room, so you won't disobey me, he said lowly in my ear. He then pulled away from me and stepped back. He turned to leave, but I spoke. What do you expect me to do? What's my purpose for being here if I'm not doing anything? I raised my voice. Why take me here if I could do much better at my old pack? Why not treat me like a mate instead of stalking me while I'm in the shower? I may act stubborn, but I have my reasons. Parker didn't turn around and kept on walking away. I didn't say anything else. I've done my fair share in this argument, and I know that I'm right on this one. I heard a door slam, and I couldn't help but smirk. After having my moment of smugness, I headed to the kitchen. I noticed Logan wasn't in the kitchen. She hasn't been here all day. Maybe she has a day off. I pulled out a package of ramen noodles and heated up water. After the water boiled, I poured the dried noodles into the water and added the chicken seasoning into the water. When it was done, I scooped some of it into a bowl. I sat my bowl down on the bar in the kitchen, sat on one of the stools, and began eating. My phone vibrated as it sat next to my bowl. I glanced out my phone and read the text. From Anthony, is Alpha Boy treating you right? I couldn't help but laugh at him. I let out a sigh as I sent him a reply. It could be worse. I miss home. As soon as my text was sent and showed that it was read, my phone started ringing. I looked at the called ID and chuckled as Anthony's name lit up the screen. Before I could greet him, Anthony spoke. Princess, what is that bastard doing to you? His voice came out like a growl. What? No hello. I chuckled, trying to ease his anger down. I don't understand why he's acting so. How should I say it? Protective? Jamie, he said lowly in a small warning. I laughed at him. Okay, chill. You don't need to get your panties in a twist. Anthony let out a long sigh while chuckling at the end. I've missed you so much. You have no idea, he said through the line. I smiled at his words. He continued, and I know you've missed this sexy body of mine. A laugh escaped my mouth. There's the Anthony I know. I've missed you, too. I responded. Princess, please tell me what you mean by, it could be worse, Anthony pleaded. I let out a long sigh. I guess he dashed. My voice was cut off when someone called out to me. Luna. I turned my head to the door frame of the kitchen and noticed the beta leaning against the frame. I furrowed my brows. When did he get here? Yes. I asked, my voice laced with confusion. Xander cleared his throat and stood up straighter. Alpha would like to speak with you, he answered. My body stiffened. He wants to speak with me? I don't think I did anything wrong, unless he's angry with me from earlier. He's in his office. I nodded my head in response, and then tuned in back into my phone. Sorry, Anthony. I'll call you back. With that being said, I ended the call and stood up from the stool I was sitting on and walked out of the kitchen, not before nodding toward Xander, who followed behind me as I walked towards Parker's office. Once I reached her towards the giant wooden doors, I hesitantly raised my hand to knock on the door. I gulped as I knocked on the door 3 times. I waited there a few minutes before I heard a gruff, "Come in." I slowly opened the door and peeked in. Parker was sitting at his desk looking at papers. "Come sit," he spoke, not looking up from the paper he was trying to read. I walked in fully and took a seat in the chair that was facing his desk. Xander followed me in, but Parker stopped him. Alone. He used his alpha tone with Xander. He bowed his head. "Apologies, Alpha." He then left and shut the door behind him. I turned my attention back to Parker, who finally looked up from his papers and leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You called?" I raised my brow at him. He nodded his head. "I did. I would like to discuss the purpose for why I brought you to my pack, as you brought up before." I watched as he leaned forward and rested his elbows on his desk. "Let's make a deal." This caught my attention. I leaned back in my chair. "And what is this deal?" I asked, suddenly interested in what he had to say. "I'll give you permission to get out of the house during the day and visit the pack. You are not allowed to leave pack territories," he delivered, his eyes staring at me, waiting for an answer. I narrowed my eyes. What do I have to do in return to be able to have my freedom? It was my turn to lean forward in my chair. "And what do I have to do in return?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. He smirked at me, a sexy smirk that I oh so badly wanted to wipe off his face. "You must do as I say," he responded. I rolled my eyes. "That's nothing new." His smirk grew wider, which caused my brows to furrow. "That's not what I meant." I gave him confused. His gaze didn't falter. "I mean that I can touch you whenever I want, however I want. Your purpose is to carry my pups to keep the alpha blood going." He spoke as his hard eyes stared intently at me. My mouth fell open as all the color drained from my face. Is he for real? All he wants from me is sex? To please him? Pups? He doesn't want to actually love me. My mate doesn't want anything to do with me, but to make pups. Chapter 16. I quickly stood up from my chair and scowled at him with a look of disgust. He stood up as well and came around his desk. "So what's it going to be?" "I give you freedom, and you give me your body, or you'll be locked here." He then placed his hands on either side of me, trapping me against his desk, and whispered with a low voice, "And I still get your body." I glared up at him, my eyes narrowed, and shoved at his chest, making him stagger back a little. "Excuse me?" I was behind, livid by the words that just came out of his mouth. My glare didn't falter when Parker towered over me, clenching his jaw while trapping me against his desk once again. "You heard me?" Parker's voice was low and intimidating that it made me feel so small. But I will not let him get to me. Standing up taller, I snapped, "I will not be your personal toy just to please yourself. I do not want to be held captive against my will and not have a say in anything. In fact, I don't even want a mate." My voice was strong, and I was proud to say it. "You will do everything and anything I say. Do you hear me?" Parker growled, grabbing my chin and forcing me to look at him. I tried pulling my face away from his grip, but his grip was strong. Memories of all the torture kind caused me made tears burn my eyes. But I didn't let them fall. Without even thinking, I said the first thing that came to my head, and knew that it would make him stop, but meant every word. Jasmine Davis. Reject you, Alpha Parker Mason, as my mate. My voice didn't waver. I didn't stutter. I didn't want to be used again. Parker's eyes widened at my words. Shock was written clear on his face. His grip on my face loosened, and I was able to pull my face away from his hand. I looked back at Parker, who was watching me. If looks could kill, I would be way under. A gasp left my lips as I noticed his bright gold eyes. His wolf was surfacing and wanted to be let out. "You can't reject me," he growled out as he tried to come near me again, but I stepped back. "Too bad, I just did." I turned towards his door and swung it open before slamming it shut behind me. I ran down the hall and up the stairs to my room. Xander called after me, but I ignored him. Quickly, I packed some things into a small bag that I had brought. I then ran over to my window and opened it. Taking my bag and slipping my arms through the straps, I jumped out onto the roof. I pulled my phone out and sent a quick text to Serena and Anthony. Me-6:47. I rejected him. After I sent that text, I jumped from the roof onto a tree and then climbed down. I then shifted into my wolf, picked up my bag and clothes, and ran deep into the forest, making sure to go the opposite way from the rest of Parker's pack. My wolf was whimpering as we drew farther and farther away from Parker. Pain crawled up through my body, earning a whimper from me. But I didn't stop running. Trees whipped past me as did wind and icy air. The cold November air. Everything around me became a blur as I kept running. Everything seemed so fake, but it was all so real. Why is my life so messed up? Why me? There has to be a reason for everything, right? I came to a slow stop when I was sure that I was at the end of Parker's territory. Slight fear spiked through me. Should we really do this? Irene asked me, her voice small. "I don't know," I said honestly. I could smell other wolves near me, and I knew they must be the guards. I looked around and noticed that there were none in eye's view. Quickly and quietly, I darted forward, crossing the territory. As I crossed, intense pain crawled through me. I let out a quiet whimper, making sure the guards don't hear me. Once I was sure I was far enough from Parker's territory, I collapsed to the ground. Pain still surged through me, and I let out a painful howl. Is this the pain of rejecting your mate? I wonder if he's having pain himself, or if he's actually happy that I'm gone and probably could find a replacement. I let out another howl as black dots blurred my vision. I could hear Irene howling in my head. My eyes felt heavy as dizziness and black enveloped me. Last thing I could remember was sweeping into unconsciousness. My hips swayed to the beat of the music. I leaned against the wall with a beer in hand. Serena had dragged me here because I was wallowing in self-pity, all because of Kyan. She wanted me to get out and have some fun. So I agreed, sort of. I took a swig of my beer and quietly sang the lyrics to Jennifer Lopez's song, On the Floor. Maybe I do need to let loose. My eyes fell on Serena, who was dancing with some random dude. I then shifted my gaze toward the bar, more specifically a really hot guy with jet black hair who was staring at me with an intense gaze and a smirk. He was leaning against it with a bottle of alcohol in hand as well. I playfully winked at him before taking another gulp of my drink. I looked back at the dance floor, tempted to go dance. But I didn't want to be some lonely person dancing all by herself. I couldn't help but look back at the bar, but the guy was no longer there. My brows furrowed. It was then that I felt an arm snake around my waist. I turned my head and was met with hazel eyes, ones that belonged to the hot guy. The smirk was still playing on her lips as he lowered his face to my ear. "What's a pretty girl like you doing here all by herself?" I returned the smirk and fiddled with the bottle in my hand. Maybe that girl is waiting for someone to ask her to dance. I ran my finger up his chest before guiding him toward the dance floor. I heard him chuckle from behind me and gripped my hips, pulling me towards him. My eyes darted toward the people next to me and noticed how the girls were grinding on the guys. You only live once, right? I attempted to do so by rolling my hips back, making sure my ass rubbed against him. I thought I was doing it right because his grip tightened and he pulled me closer. He started grinding back, and I couldn't help but feel more alive. "That's it, baby," he whispered in my ear as he turned me around and grabbed my ass. He stared, placing kisses on my neck. This is bad, very bad, I thought as I let out a quiet moan as he sucked on the sensitive skin. I will definitely regret this. But I couldn't stop. Instead, I took one last sip of my beer, finishing it off. He handed me the bottle in his hand, which I took and drank the whole thing. Everything became hazy, and I couldn't remember much of what happened except I woke up in a foreign bed, feeling extremely sore and hungover. After that night, my life became very messed up. My eyes slowly opened and was met with what looked like a cloth ceiling. My eyes fully opened, and I realized I was in a tent. I tried sitting up, my hands were strapped down. I sniffed the air and was welcomed by unfamiliar scents. My brows knitted together. It was then a girl walked in the room. She looked to be about 15, but what caught my attention was her scent. It smelled somewhat familiar. I then realized it was her, who I smelled in the forest on my run back in October. "You're awake," she stated as she took a seat in the chair next to the cot that I was on. The girl had blonde hair that looked untamed and had dirt on her skin. She was wearing a wrapped t-shirt and jeans. "Where am I?" I asked as my eyes wandered the tent. There wasn't really anything in here except for a mirror, some medicine bottles, and a box that said first aid. The girl didn't say anything but watched me instead. "Why am I here?" I tried again. She finally decided to say something. "I found you passed out on the ground. I got my pack to help you." My eyes lightened up at the mention of pack. Maybe this pack can help me. I wonder what pack she's from. My eyes then widened. Did I enter other pack territory? Shit, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I crossed pack territory. I apologized. The girl just laughed while shaking her head. "You didn't cross pack territory." I relaxed at that. "Okay, good. I'm not in trouble. What pack are you from?" I looked back at the girl who was waiting for an answer. "Moonlit Waters pack." I answered. She raised an eyebrow. "You're far from your pack." I nodded my head. I was far from home, and I couldn't go back. I couldn't help but wonder if Parker was looking for me or not. He probably wasn't. One less problem to deal with. He probably didn't care that I rejected him. Maybe he's happy. My heart clenched at the thought, but I quickly brushed that away. I don't need a mate who just wants my body. I've been used twice by the same guy. I don't need a third time. And you know that they say third time's a charm. I don't want to end up pregnant, especially at a young age. "Are you okay?" the girl asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, brushing it off. "What's your name and what pack are you from?" I asked her. Might as well get to know her. I still don't know why I'm all strapped down if her pack was only helping me. She stared at me for a few moments, probably trying to decide whether to tell me or not. "Hannah, my pack are rogues," she finally said. I was now alerted. Rogues? Her pack are rogues? Why is a rogue helping me? I was taught that rogues are wolves who don't belong in a pack. They are dangerous and cruel. They don't follow rules and enjoys ruining other packs. They show no mercy. But I've never actually met a rogue. Up until now anyways. Maybe they aren't as bad we think they are. Rogues. I asked, just making sure I heard her right. "Yeah," she responded before standing up. "You hungry?" I nodded my head slowly. She exited the tent without another word. She's a nice girl. I then heard voices outside the tent. "Is she awake?" It was a deep, masculine voice. "Yes, she is." I heard Hannah respond. The male then spoke again. "Does she know about the pack?" "She does." After that was said, Footsteps faded, meaning they walked away. I wonder who that was. Maybe the Alpha? I laid staring at the ceiling, small pain surrounding me, wondering if I made the right choice. I clenched my hands into fists. I know I made the right choice. Chapter 17. Parker Mason POV. Pain, regret, sorrow, anger. That's all I felt. My wolf was not talking to me. He was angry with me. I would be too. Anger boiled through me, and a loud growl erupted from me. I stood up from my desk and shoved it over, causing a loud crash. I heard a knock on my door, but ignored them. Sudden pain filled me, making me let out a groan of pain. The knock on the door came again, followed by a voice and a head peeking in. "Alpha, are you okay?" My head snapped towards him, and I couldn't feel my wolf, but the pain was too much. Xander took in my appearance, and his eyes widened in fear as he noticed my state. I felt my canines extending and my claws come out. "Get out!" I roared at him. His eyes widened in fear as he quickly left. I gritted my teeth together as the pain grew stronger. I cursed out as I took a seat in my chair and threw my head back, releasing out a holler of pain. I saw black spots in my vision. I was immediately filled with worries of the pack members. Many were asking if I was all right, but I didn't reply to any of them. Pain and anger took over my body. Pain that felt like a big part of me was taken out. My head pounded as it ached, and sharp pain shot through my arms and legs. The most pain was in my chest, and it felt like I was stabbed many times by silver. I cursed out profanities as black spots filled my vision and dizziness took over. Sweat trickled down my forehead, and I was panting. I tried calling out to my wolf, but I couldn't reach him. It was the worst pain I could ever feel. It was worse than anything I've experienced, and I've experienced many things. My shirt clung to my sweat-covered body. Everything felt hot as the pain only got worse. I tried getting up from the chair and head for my door, but my knees locked, and I collapsed to my knees and caught myself with my hands first. "Alpha." This time it was Jonas, who called out to me through the pack link. I could tell that everyone in the pack was able to feel my pain. I slipped into unconsciousness as black filled my whole vision. I sat up quickly as sweat coated my face and body. My eyes focused on a bright light that hung above me. I shifted my eyes to my right and noticed the plain white walls. This caused me to sit up, and I realized I was in the pack hospital. My throat felt dry and needed some water. Turning my head, I noticed a glass of water sitting on the table by the bed. Taking it, I drank all of it before getting up. That's when I felt the emptiness inside of me. My jaw clenched, and I balled my fist at the familiar feeling, but it was worse. I stood up from the bed and swayed, but I quickly stood up straight. The door opened, and Michael, the doctor, stepped in. He looked startled to see me up. "Alpha, you should probably lay back down. You've been out for a few hours." I wasn't able to figure out what was wrong, but I do know you have no contact with your wolf. He spoke as he looked down at his clipboard in hand. I nodded my head, but didn't make a move to go back and lay down. Michael noticed, so he opened his mouth, but closed it at the look I was giving him. "May I ask what happened?" he asked. I crossed my arms over my chest and replied. My voice was low. "I don't know." He nodded his head, not asking anything else. I then turned to the door and opened it. I exited the room and started down the hall. Members of my pack bowed as I walked, by which I returned with a nod. My jaw was set, and my lips pressed into a thin line. I know why this happened. It's because Jasmine rejected me. I clenched my jaw at the thought. I exited the building and shifted into my wolf, not caring that my clothes ripped. I bolted into the forest in the direction of my house. I noticed a strong, empty feeling inside of me, and panic soon took over. When my house came into view, I moved quicker. What if she wasn't there? Of course she wouldn't be there. You're an asshole. My wolf growled at me. I growled back and blocked him out. He was right. I didn't treat my mate the correct way. I know that. I don't even know how to treat a woman. I don't know what to do and what not to do. But I have some reasons behind my action. They may not be good reasons, but everything has a reason. I shifted mid-run as I approached my house. I swung the door open, not caring I was naked, and frantically went inside. Jasmine! I shouted out as I entered the hallway. I sniffed the air, and there was no trace of her scent. No one responded. I ran up the stairs as sweat trickled down my body and called out to her again, my voice cracking. Jasmine! Baby, are you here? Again, no one responded. Not even a sound. No life. I gulped as I allowed my back to hit and I clenched my jaw as a numb feeling washed over me. She's gone. She's really gone. My mate, she was given to me by the moon goddess, and all I did was mess this up. I slid down the wall. So I was sitting on the floor and ran my fingers through my messy hair. I allowed my head to fall back against the wall, and I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I can't do anything right, just like with my mother. A sickening feeling filled me, but I quickly brushed the thoughts away. I will not sit back and let her go. After a few minutes of me cursing myself out, I stood back up from the wall and headed to my room to get some clothes. There's only thing I can do. I decided to mind link my pack. I need the members on patrol duty and my best fighters to search the territory and alert other alphas about Jasmine. Meet me at the north border. We will not stop until I get my mate back. My voice roared through the link, and I could feel all the pain from all the pack members because their Luna is gone, and also the shock that I had found my mate. Fear was also mixed in from the tone of my voice. I yanked the front door of my house open and headed back to the north border. I will not let my mate get away. I will get her back, and she'll stay with me forever, rejected or not. Jasmine Davis POV. My eyes observed the torn tents that were set up as rogues walked around chatting with one another, carrying crates of food and other things, or setting up fires for warmth from the cold fall air. They seemed so civil. Hannah was walking next to me. We are almost to the eating tent, she said. I followed her silently as we neared a large rusty tent that had members coming in and out of it. We entered it and noticed there were pups sitting on the ground eating like it was their last meal. My heart clenched at the thought of they being their only meal a day. Hannah! A voice called out to her. I shifted my gaze to see a middle-aged woman walking towards us with a basket full of bread. Hannah turned to the woman and smiled. She welcomed her with a hug. Hi, Isabel, Hannah greeted. The woman, who I'm assuming is Isabel, handed Hannah the basket. I need you to slice these. Hannah nodded and gladly took the basket. It was then Isabel noticed me standing next to her, and she welcomed me with a warm smile. You must be Jasmine. I gave her a confused look, and she let out a laugh. Word goes around quickly, she responded to my confusion. My mouth formed an O before I nodded. Are you feeling better? She asked as she untied the apron around her waist and laid it on the wooden table that was set up along the side of the tent. Yeah, I am. I lied through my teeth. I would be good. I don't have a headache. But the emptiness inside of me was strong and unbearable. All I wanted to do was reunite with my mate. But I knew that that's not an option. I offered her a forced smile as she mentioned something about helping some mothers with their pups. I followed Hannah as she walked deeper into the tent, greeting others as she walked by. Some stared at me, but I kept my eyes on the back of Hannah's head. She stopped at a table and placed a basket on it before walking over to what looked like a hose and washed her hands. I did the same and went back to the table and noticed she was slicing the bread like told. I picked up a knife and helped slice the bread. We worked in silence. I listened to the conversations around us from the others. So why were you passed out? Hannah asked, not looking up from the bread. My breath hitched at the question. I didn't expect her to ask a question like that. I slowly stopped cutting the bread. I contemplated whether to tell her or not. I took a deep breath and finally responded. I rejected my mate. My voice was a whisper as I felt my wolf whimper, and pain briefly swirled inside me. I heard a gasp from beside me. I turned my head and noticed Hannah staring at me with wide eyes. You rejected your mate? She asked, shock clear in her voice. I nodded in response and averted my gaze back down. Is it okay if I ask why? You don't have to answer. She trailed off. The pain came back as I kept thinking about Parker. Do I want to share this with her? I should probably talk about it. It would probably make me feel better. I put down the knife and turned fully towards her. I took a deep breath. I rejected him because I don't believe I deserve him. I've had a rough past involving another male, and just me not taking care of myself. I regret what I did to myself, and I feel that my mate deserves better. I thought that I would give him a chance, but he blew it. I may not deserve a mate. I may not like the idea of having a mate, but I do know that no other female should be treated the way I've been treated. I felt tears well up in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I waited for Hannah to answer. She stared at me with a frown on her face and placed her knife down also. That's awful. Her voice was a whisper. She looked down toward the ground. Her next words were barely above a whisper. My mother was taken away by another pack of rogues. All I know is that they took her because of her beauty and wanted her body. My father tried everything he could to find her. He didn't. He died from the pain of her gone. He knew she was killed. He could feel it in the bond. She sniffled and quickly wiped the tear from her face. I could feel my heart aching for her. She continued, I, too, was kidnapped by rogues from my pack, or just group of rogues, I should say. Saved me. I was out in the forest with some friends. I was a stupid 6-year-old, not knowing the dangers of the world. I don't know where my old pack is. They've never looked for me. I don't even remember what pack it was. She looked at me through her tear-filled eyes. You should give him another chance. Maybe he understands now what he did wrong. Whoever this guy is, shouldn't go through the pain like my dad did. All I can remember was how heartbroken he was. I remember he was so closed off and spent most of his time in his office and never took interest in other women. The tears in my eyes were now sliding down my cheeks. I instantly felt guilty and regretful for what I did. Did I even do the right thing rejecting Parker? He didn't stop me when I left, though. Maybe he doesn't even care. I pulled Hannah into a hug, and I could feel her back shaking as she cried. All of her pain and sorrow poured out, as if she kept it all behind walls that were just let down. I rubbed circles on her back, hoping it would calm her down. After a few minutes of me comforting her, she finally calmed down. Are you okay? I asked her as I examined her face. Her eyes were puffy and red, and her cheeks were stained with tear streaks. She nodded her head. Yes, thank you. I've been needing that. I gave her a small smile in which she shakily returned. Chapter 18. My eyes were wide as I stared at the figure in front of me. My mouth opened and closed as I tried of thinking on what to say. Anger suddenly coursed through me. Never thought I'd see you again, Kyle. I spat his name, my voice full of venom as I hid my shock behind a wall. My hands clenched into fists, and I dug my nails into my skin to prevent me from beating the shit out of him. Kyle remained silent, not saying anything to me. Hannah was oblivious to the tension. Oh, you two know each other? I let out a bitter laugh as I sent a glare his way. You can say that. My eyes burned with hatred as I connected gazes with him. Kyle was Kyan's brother. I was close with him, but like everyone else, he turned his back on me. He sexually harassed me after Kyan was done. He did things worse than Kyan had ever done at times. He took advantage of me when I was weak and broken. He took the destruction Kyan caused and made it worse. Nobody knew what he was doing, not even Kyan himself. He usually got me when I was at a party or when I was even just walking in the hallway. I could never escape from him. At times he would avoid me, but he would always come back. My friends and family knew what Kyan had done, but didn't know about Kyle. And since Kyle is a werewolf, which totally shocked me, there is no excuse for what he did to me. He is supposed to have a mate, and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't treat her the way he treated me. No girl should be treated the way I was treated. Are you feeling better? Kyle asked, breaking the silence. I crossed my arms and leaned against the counter, sending daggers his way. Why do you care? An emotion flashed across his eyes. Regret and guilt. He then looked down at Hannah. Please take the bread to the cooks so they can prepare dinner, he spoke. Hannah nodded and took the cut loaves away, leaving me with Kyle all alone. I kept my eyes narrowed at him. Listen, Jasmine. His deep voice began and my nose flared as I cut him off. What? I spat, not wanting to deal with his bullshit. He let out a deep sigh as he ran his fingers through his messy blonde hair. I'm sorry, okay? He apologized, his voice laced with guilt. I rolled my eyes. That's all he has to say? Sorry? I opened my mouth to say something, but he continued. I know what I did was wrong. Extremely wrong. I was messed up. I didn't know. I guess I was just jealous of Kyan. He got to have you when I wanted you. Throughout all those years you were together, it was painful for me. His voice was sad, and his eyes were filled with hurt. I just stared at him with shock and disbelief. This was all so new to me, and I had no idea. But all this just sounds like bullshit and crap. I don't know why Kyan did what he did. He never did say, but I thought it would be my chance to get you. Then Kyan started using your weaknesses against you and started taking advantage. Turns out he just wanted your body. All those years, I wanted to be with you, but something came over me. Something about you, maybe your scent or something, caused my wolf to go crazy and I lost control of myself. Every time I lost control and tortured you, I would realize what I did afterwards and regret it. I wanted to apologize to you, but I feared it would happen again. I was so guilty and I hated myself for it. He paused to take a breath as he searched my eyes for answers. He wasn't done. It was so wrong of me to take advantage over a woman. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I don't want you to hate me. I had no words. I didn't know what to say. He seemed sorry, but he did mess up my life, almost as much as Kyan did. I had received almost daily tortures, which turned to weekly and then months, month after month. I cried myself to sleep at night. It was hell. I know I can't forgive him, but now I was curious. He said something about me made him lose control. I wonder what that something was. I shifted on my foot. You caused me a lot of pain. I know I can't forgive, and you know I can't. My voice was barely above a whisper. Memories flooded my head, making Irene whimper. Kyle looked down at the ground, his eyes glossy. You don't have to forgive me. I am more than sorry for what I did, and I know words cannot show how sorry I am. I didn't respond to him, but just observed his state. If I were you, I'd just punch me in the face. He muttered more to himself, but I heard him clearly. I shrugged and raised my fist and swung it back before landing it square in the jaw. A cry left him as I pulled my arm back. He placed his hand over his jaw and groaned in pain. I smirked as I placed my hands on my hips. You punched me, he stated while wincing a bit as he talked. I noticed. I replied smugly. I deserved it. I nodded my head. You did. I then dropped my arms by my side. Come on, let's get you some ice. He grunted in response, earning a chuckle from me. I didn't punch you that hard. Yes, you did. He groaned back as he complained about the pain. You big baby. I took a bite of the freshly made meat stew. I'm not exactly sure what's in it, but I don't care. It was good. The rogues all sat around on the ground in front of fire, chatting with each other. The bright silver moon was out. Stars filled the sky. It was as if you could feel the presence of the mood goddess. The cold night air was brought by a breeze. I was thankful for the fire because it was pretty cold. You never told me you were a werewolf, I said to Kyle, who sat in front of me. Hannah was sitting next to me chatting with Isabel. Kyle thought for a moment as he watched the fire. I didn't know how. My mother is human and my father was a werewolf, he finally said. I wanted to ask more questions. I wasn't sure how to ask them, though. Ask him how he became alpha of a rogue pack, Irene suggested. I agreed with her. I would like to know that. How did you become alpha of a rogue pack? I asked curiously as I took the last bite of the stew. I frowned at the empty bowl. I could really use some more. I was kicked out of my pack because of my father. He had done something against pack laws, and he was killed. Because he was killed, he was not able to be kicked out. Since the alpha of the pack was such an asshole, he kicked me out instead, because I was my father's son. I had to suffer the consequences. Kyle tossed a stick into the fire. He watched as it caught on fire. As I wandered the woods, not know what the hell to do, I ran into a group of rogues. They gladly took me in. They appointed me as their alpha. From then on, the pack grew. We may be rogues, but we're like a family. I couldn't help but smile slightly at his words. That was sweet of them. I watched as the sparks drifted up and disappeared. The smell of campfire filled my nose, and I couldn't help but think of Parker's scent. I wonder what he's doing right now. I quickly pushed the thoughts away. I don't need to be thinking about Parker right now. I rejected him, and there is no turning back. Mates can accept each other after rejection. Irene informed me. I knew that they could do that. Only if the one who rejected their mate agrees. It can only be done by marking of the male. I responded to her. An alpha's mate has to mark him as well, because the bond is stronger. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like if I marked Parker. How would I do it? I've kissed a guy's neck before. Scratch that. I've kissed Parker's neck before, and it was obvious he liked it. I could still feel the way Parker's smooth skin felt against my lips. Imagine what it would be like when he marks me. Will it hurt or feel good? I've been told that it hurts at first, but then a wave of pleasure comes with it. Irene purred at the thought of it all. What were you doing, wandering this deep in the forest? Kyle asked, breaking me from my terrible thoughts of Parker that I regret thinking about. Should I tell him? The feeling of emptiness and pain returned, causing Irene to whimper. I focused on the fire and watched the flames dance. I rejected my mate, I said quietly. Kyle just blinked at me, and his mouth formed an "oh." "Oh, I'm so sorry," he whispers. He doesn't say anything else, but I can tell he wants to by the way he opened and closed his mouth. I decide to say more. Maybe I will feel better when I actually say something. My mate doesn't deserve me, I said once I found my voice. I'm ashamed of my past. I feel disgusted with myself. My gaze found Kyle, who looked extremely guilty. He looked truly sorry for what he had done, and I almost wanted to forgive him. Not just what you did, but the choices I made after. I partied, got drunk, and had sex whenever I wanted to just forget everything that has happened to me. I regret it all so much. My mate only wanted me for my body, so that only made me hate myself even more. The pain in my chest didn't go away, and it didn't make me feel any better. A little part of me regrets even rejecting Parker in the first place. Don't think like that. It was all my kind and my fault. I haven't seen Kyan since high school, but I'm extremely guilty for treating you like that and making your life hell. Words cannot describe how sorry I am. Kyle's voice was apologetic. He gave me a sad smile in which I returned. We didn't say anything, and it was silent. We could only hear the popping from the fire. There was then the sound of shouting. Kyle stiffened and his head snapped towards the direction of the shouts. It was then a man ran over to Kyle. "What is it?" Kyle asked, his tone alert. It was then the scent of the familiar campfire scent filled my nose, and it was not the fire. Wolves have been spotted near camp, and they are planning to attack. The man spoke after catching his breath. A sickening feeling overcame me, and I already knew who it was. Chapter 19. It was total chaos. Some of the rogues shifted into wolves and now headed for one direction. Others ran, shouting orders at each other. Howls were heard in the night air, which caused chills to run up my spine. All of the older women ushered the pups in the opposite direction. What am I supposed to do? I looked around with my eyes wide, and Kyle stared back at me. "Go help the pups," he shouted, and I quickly nodded my head and ran towards the direction of the pups. Some were confused and didn't know what was going on. Some were crying, and others were silent. Hannah was helping. She had a tiny pup in her arms who was holding a teddy bear and a ragged blanket that looked old and torn. I glanced behind me and saw wolves fighting. "Do you know who was attacking us?" I asked Hannah. Of course I already knew who was, but I didn't want to be right on this one. Hannah looked at me with fear. "Lunar Shadow Pack." Of course I had to be right. "Asshole! He came back when he knows I will not go back with him. I rejected him. Therefore I have a choice. Not that I didn't have a choice before. But the bond is broken, and it will stay broken unless we mark each other. Like hell, I'm not letting him touch me. Even though the emptiness inside of me is unbearable, I can still fight it and find someone else. I am free from fate, unless fate finds its way. But I will not let it get its way." A small hand tugged on my arm. I looked down to see a little boy who looked about 7 years old, with a tear-streaked face looking up at me. I crouched down in front of him. "What's wrong?" I asked as I rubbed the tears away with the pads of my thumbs. A shout sounded nearby, and on instinct I tucked the boy into my arms as I looked around with my eyes narrowed. My eyes focused on the trees in front of us that were dark and nothing could be seen within it. I felt as if someone was watching. Quickly, I picked up the boy and ran into the opposite direction. I didn't know where the others were, but all I cared about right now was avoiding Parker, who probably was here, and this boy's safety. As I ran, I passed wolves fighting and blood everywhere. There were even dead bodies. I kept the boy's head tucked in toward my body, so he doesn't see any of it. I could feel him shaking, and instantly knew he was crying. My eyes landed on a tent off by itself, and I quickly went to it. I peeked in, and noticed it empty. I went and sat the boy down on a random table. "Hey, are we safe?" he asked quietly, his eyes still filled with tears. I didn't want to lie, so I decided to say the truth. "I don't know," I said quietly. "What's your name?" He sniffles, Daniel. "Well, Daniel, I'm Jasmine. I don't know what's going on, but it's best if we be as quiet as we can." I instructed. He nods, and I pick him up once again before sitting in the darkest part of the tent with him on my lap, hoping that no one from Lunar Shadow would find us. Daniel buried his head in my shoulder as I rubbed his back. My eyes were focused on the shadow that lingered outside the tent. I held my breath as I watched it linger there. There's no point in hiding. Parker will probably be able to smell my scent, maybe not as much as before, because the bond is broken. I watched as the shadow walked away, and I let out the breath I was holding. I looked down at Daniel, who still had his head buried. I didn't know what to do in this situation. It was then I heard a bone-curdling growl that caused chills to crawl up my spine. "Where's my mate?" A voice roared out, causing me to snap my head in the direction of the voice. "Parker." Daniel let out a whimper at his booming voice, and I hugged him closer to me. I couldn't help but feel angry at him for coming here. These people clearly didn't do anything wrong. If anything, they helped me. If Parker somehow manages to get me, He definitely will have to do something for these people, like give them land or something. This is completely unfair. I don't know, Kyle responded strongly. My eyes widened. Kyle isn't giving me away. Immediately another growl followed after his response. Yes, you do, Rogue, Parker spat. I placed Daniel onto ground. His eyes looked at me with fear, and I placed my finger over my lips before slowly creeping over to the entrance. I allowed my eyes to peek through the crack, but I kept quiet and didn't make any sudden movements. I'm pretty good at sneaking because of all the sneaking out I used to do. My mouth fell open as I watched Parker standing there in all his glory, wearing only jeans that hung loosely on his hips, and was gripping the collar of Kyle's shirt, who would fear his eyes but was clenching his jaw in anger. If you don't tell me where she is, I'll kill every single one in this pack, starting with you. I know she's here. I can smell her on you. Parker growled out with his teeth clenched as he looked like he was literally about to kill Kyle. Fear coursed through me. Shit, he can smell me. Kyle didn't say anything. Parker wasn't happy with this, so he raised his fist and landed it against Kyle's jaw. He stumbled back a bit and glared at Parker while rubbing his jaw. A sob escaped from someone. I snapped my head to see that Daniel was now next to me. I quickly covered his mouth with my palm to silence him. I gulped as I knew that Parker heard it. His eyes were now narrowed at the tent we were in. I knew that he couldn't see me, but I slowly moved away without sudden movement. I tucked Daniel into my arms and tried to be as quiet as possible. I heard the sound of footprints coming closer. Daniel hugged me tighter, and I rubbed the back of his head as my eyes were focused on the shadow that was now in front of the tent. I sucked in my breath as I saw a hand reach and pull back the entrance of the tent. Parker's eyes immediately fell on mine, and they darkened while he clenched his jaw. His eyes then landed on the boy in my arms. A small growl escaped him as he stepped towards me. I quickly stood up and took a step back. He let out another growl and reached to grab my wrist, but I let out a growl back. Stay away from me, I snapped while narrowing my eyes at him. An emotion flashed across his face, but was quickly covered up with an angry glare. You're coming with me, he growled. He made another move for me and actually grabbed my wrist this time. There was a small amount of electricity that shot through my arm, but it isn't as much as it is with the bond. Stop it. My eyes widened at the small voice. I looked down and noticed that Daniel was now looking at Parker with a frown. I couldn't help but smirk at the perplexed look on Parker's face. It was replaced with the same anger again. He looked annoyed also and tightened his hold on my wrist and pulled me out of the tent. I tried pulling back, but he didn't stop. Let me go, I shouted at him. I rejected you. I have a choice now. He didn't stop and ignored me. The rogues that were surrounded by wolves from the Lunar Shadow pack stared at us in shock. Kyle gave me an apologetic look. I kept squirming in Parker's grip. He didn't do anything but keep pulling me forward and release a loud growl that caused me to shut up. I glared at his back. With all my strength, I pulled back, causing him to stop. He turned around quickly to glare at me, but I ignored him. I placed Daniel down. He gave me a tight hug. Are you going to go? He asked sadly. He looked up at me with glassy eyes. I gave him a sad smile before giving him a hug. He hugged back before I stood back up. He ran over to his mother, who was crying. I didn't miss the other members who were crying or frightened. I turned back to Parker, who was staring at me with a blank face. He turned to his pack, and his eyes glazed over meaning. He was using the mind link. I took that as my chance to turn and sprint away from them and into the woods. I pumped my legs as fast as I could using my speed. I shifted into my midnight black-colored wolf to gain more speed. I heard a growl farther behind me and knew he was after me. I ran even faster, dodging all the trees and making turns in hopes that it would mess him up. He growled even louder as he neared. I didn't look back knowing that it would only slow me down. Come on, we need to move faster. I said to Irene. But he's our mate, she said back. I rolled my eyes at her. Yeah, but he can't just make choices for us without our consent. She didn't say anything because she knew I was right. Instead, she took control and made us run faster. I then stumbled to the ground when I felt something slam into me. Just as I was about to get up, I was pinned down by Parker. His campfire wood-colored wolf looked down at me with anger. I bared my teeth at him, in which he bared his teeth as well. He shifted back to his human form, but kept me pinned down somehow, using his alpha strength. Shift, he commanded. I growled at him, and he glared back at me. I squirmed under his grip. I'm not going to say it again, he whispered in deathly voice. Shift. I gulped at the intensity of his eyes. I couldn't sense his anger and the power radiating off of him. Before I could do anything, Irene made me shift back into my human self. Parker kept me pinned down, but he stared at me with dark eyes. He leaned forward and buried his face in my neck, making my eyes widen. He sniffed in my scent deeply. I then remembered that both of us were completely naked, and I shivered at the thought. I tried to push him off of me, but he didn't move. I was cut off by a growl from him. I didn't know what to do. We just stayed like that, him on top of me, deeply breathing in my scent. He didn't let his body touch mine. I'm not complaining. His campfire scent mixed with cologne filled my nose, and it was somewhat soothing. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to get away and as far from him as possible, but I had not control over the situation, and it was scaring me. Chapter 20. I entered my room and headed straight to the bathroom for a shower. I felt like shit, and I probably smelled like it too. I also definitely need to brush my teeth. I sighed as I turned on the water, making sure it was really warm, before stripping down out of my clothes and jumping into the shower. I closed my eyes as the water hit my back. After Parker and I came back from the woods, I went straight to my room, ignoring him. I'm really not in the mood to deal with his bullshit, and I really don't feel like arguing. I would like an explanation, though, on why he would treat me the way he did. I'm not some object that will be used whenever he wants. That is what his hand is for. I picked up my shampoo and squirted some into my hand before scrubbing it into my hair. Once I rinsed it out, I put conditioner in it and used body wash. After finishing my shower, I climbed out and wrapped a towel around my body. I went back into my room to get clothes, but stopped when I noticed a familiar red flower on my dresser. I furrowed my brows as I went over to it. Another rose, identical to the one before, laid there. It was beautiful. The smell of Parker was clearly around it, and I knew it was from him. But why? Picking it up, I took it and put it in the vase with the other one. I changed into a black tank top and some sweatpants before combing my hair and putting it in a messy bun. I exited my room and quietly went down the stairs, hoping that I wouldn't run into Parker. I tiptoed into the kitchen, careful not to make a noise, but stopped in my tracks when I noticed him sitting in the kitchen, his back facing me. He tensed when he sensed my presence. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. I couldn't sense what he was feeling because of the bond. I walked over to the closet and pulled out a bag of potato chips and made a move to exit the kitchen, but a warm hand grabbed my wrist. I turned to Parker with a raised eyebrow, trying to ignore the tingles from his touch. Even though the bond is broken, I can still feel a little bit of shock from his touch. I don't like it, not one bit. What? I asked impatiently as he stared at me. His eyes looked over me from top to bottom before settling on my chest, lust filling his eyes. I forgot that I was wearing a tank top, which you could see the top of my boobs. I cursed at myself for walking around like this. My eyes are up here. I snapped as I yanked my wrist away from his grip. He lifted his gaze up to me, and his eyes were dark. How are you feeling? He asked. This wasn't what I was expecting come out of his mouth, so I was caught off guard. Fine, I guess. I said, not feeling comfortable by his intense gaze. He didn't say anything but nodded and stood up from his chair before heading out of the kitchen, leaving me alone. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I sat down in the chair he was currently occupying and started munching on my chips. After finishing the whole bag, I checked the time on my phone to see that it was 2 a.m. I was exhausted and was ready to go to sleep. I threw the empty chip bag away and headed back up the stairs. The floor creaked under my feet as I crept through the dark hallway. The moonlight shone through the large window and was the only source of light. I slowly came to a stop at Parker's door when I heard a sound. Pressing my ear against the door, I heard moaning. My heart started pounding in my chest. It was the sound of a male moaning. I felt my breath hitch as the possibilities of what could be going on behind this door raced through my head. I continued to listen, but it was only a male, no females. My cheeks started to heat up. I knew I should probably leave, but I couldn't get my legs to move. The moaning got louder, and I felt as if my throat was closing up. It was the most beautifulest sound I ever heard. Jasmine. My name slipped from his lips, and it was breathy. I felt something stir within me, but I didn't know what to think of it. It was like a tight feeling in my lower area. My wolf was purring at the sounds coming from my mate, and I wanted to be mad at her. I guess he does use his hand. As the moaning continued, I closed my eyes listening. My wolf so badly wanted to go in there, but obviously I didn't want to. Finally pushing myself, I went back to my room. I climbed into my bed and attempted to fall asleep. I couldn't get the sounds that Parker made out of my head. I wondered what it would be like if I made him feel like that. Shaking that thought out of my head, I finally fell asleep. Breakfast was awkward. I sat in my chair picking at my food, glancing at Parker every few seconds to see him looking at me. I was still thinking about the night before every time I looked at him. Is something wrong? Parker asked from a spot across from me. I didn't look up from my food, but shook my head no. He didn't say anything else. The air around us was tense and awkward. All you could hear was the sound of our silverware hitting the plates and our chewing. The pictures Irene was putting in my head would not go away, and I couldn't help the tightening feeling in my lower abdomen, so I sat with my legs crossed while clenching my jaw. I know that Parker could smell the lustful scent that I was giving off no matter how hard I tried not to. Parker stood up from his chair and walked around the table. I didn't look up from my plate, but I could feel his presence behind me. I watched his 2 extremely large hands with long fingers cage me in. I gulped as thoughts continued to swarm in my head as a strong, alluring scent blanketed me. I felt his warm minty hitting the side of my face. My hormones were going crazy, and I didn't know how to stop them. "What are you thinking about?" he whispered lowly in my ear, causing me to shiver. "And nothing." I gulped as his lips lightly grazed my ear. He chuckled darkly in response. "Sure doesn't smell like nothing." He then glided his nose down past my ear to the sensitive part behind it, causing me to stifle a moan. He moved his nose down the side of my neck to my shoulder. Damn, I should have worn a t-shirt. Stop, I stuttered as he lightly pressed his lips to my shoulder. Why am I reacting like this? Another chuckle escaped from Parker, and I couldn't help but feel scared on what kissing him would be like. Why? He asked, his lips brushing my skin as he spoke. We aren't mates anymore. I rejected you, remember? Why did you even go get me? I snapped at him as I tried ducking underneath his arms, but he wrapped a strong arm around my waist to keep me from going anywhere. He growled in response, but I continued squirming. All you want me for is to have sex with me. I'm not just a thing. I have feelings. I yelled at him as all the anger I've been building up just flowed out. I want to be loved, not abused or taken advantage of. I've had one hell of a past, and I would not like to experience it again. If you want someone to have sex with, go find someone else willing to get used by an asshole. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of them in this pack, or anywhere else. I may not deserve a mate, which is why I kept pushing you away, but turns out I was doing the right thing. Not for you, but for me. I don't think I deserve being treated this way. Tears were now forming in my eyes. I don't like crying in front of people, but at this point I couldn't control it. Everything was flowing, and I so badly want to punch him or kick him in the balls. Irene whimpered at my pain. All of the memories of my past flashed through my head. All of the pain, sorrow, mistakes, and cowardliness overwhelmed me as I shoved Parker away from me and stood up grabbing my dishes. I glanced at Parker to see that his eyes were swirling with an emotion I couldn't decipher. He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. I may not be the smartest person in the world, but I do know that that is no way to treat a mate. I said, my voice stronger, acting as if I wasn't just crying, and then walked out of the dining room and to the kitchen. I washed my dishes, dried them, and placed them in the right places. I left as Parker was entering, but I ignored him and went straight to my room to get my phone. I noticed that there were several texts and voicemails from Serena and some texts from Anthony. Anthony minus 2 days ago. You what? Anthony minus 2 days ago. What do you mean you rejected him? Anthony minus 2 days ago. Where are you? Are you safe? What did that bastard do? From Anthony. Yesterday at 3:47 a.m. Come on, princess. Please talk to me. I miss you a lot, and I'm very worried. From Anthony. Yesterday at 5:34 p.m. Everyone is worried about you. Please text me back. I decided to send a text to Anthony to let him know I'm okay. I then tucked it away in the pocket of my sweatpants before heading back downstairs. My feet padded down the hall and down the steps to the living room. Parker was probably in his office. Rolling my eyes, I plopped down on the large couch. I picked up the remote and turned the TV on. I flipped through the channels and picked one that was playing a show I didn't mind. After a while, I felt my phone vibrate. From Serena. Can you come visit? You've got a lot of explaining to do. A smile formed on my face. I would love to be able to visit them. I sent a quick response. I don't see why not. I'll be there around noon, probably. I locked my phone and stood up from the couch. I went to my room and changed into something else, brushed my hair, and put the little makeup I wear on. When I was done, I left a note on the counter so Parker doesn't decide to kill me. I exited my house and went into the forest. Chapter 21. I reached my pack around the time I said I was going to. The sun was high in the sky as the fall air breezed past me. Because I wasn't connected to Parker's pack, I still have the mind link with my pack. Where's Serena and Anthony? I mind linked my dad as I started walking into my old pack. I saw members walking around on the sidewalks, greeting me when they see me. Kiddo, you're here? They did mention that you were coming. They are at Starbucks, I believe. My dad responded quickly. I smiled sadly at his voice. I've missed my family so much. I would just come back home, but Parker probably would hurt my pack, and that is something I fear besides commitment again. I'll visit you guys later. I promise as I approach Starbucks. I can already imagine their reactions when they see me. I've missed them so much. I opened the door and was welcomed by the smell of coffee and pastries. A smile came across my face as I saw Serena in line picking up coffee and a blueberry muffin, her favorite, while Anthony was sitting at a high table talking with some other guys from our pack. Serena turned around, and when her eyes locked on mine, her eyes went wide, and so did her smile. She let out a shriek and flung her arms around me. Jamie! She hugged me tightly, and I laughed, returning the hug. I've missed you so much. I smiled as we pulled away. Me too. No hug for me, princess. A masculine voice said from behind me. I turned around just in time to be enveloped in a hug. Anthony's strong arms were wrapped around me, as my face was buried in the crook of his neck. "I missed you," I said as he hugged me tightly. "I missed you, too," he said as he pulled back, a grin taking over his face. His eyes scanned my face, and the smile on his face faded. "How are you?" he asked quietly. Knowing that he was referring to me rejecting Parker, I shrugged. Honestly, I didn't know. I just wanted Parker to just let me go. Something inside me is telling me that it isn't that easy. Mates are supposed to be together. Without their mate, they aren't complete, especially for alphas. They need their Luna. I shook those thoughts away. He came to get me. I don't know why he doesn't take the hint, I said, biting my lip. Anthony stared at me, an unfamiliar emotion running through his eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but Serena spoke up. "Don't mind me asking, but why did you reject him?" She asked curiously as she motioned for me to sit down at the table. They were already had their things. I followed her and sat down in the spot closest to the window. She handed me her coffee, but kept her muffin. Anthony sat down on the chair next to mine. I took a sip of the coffee. "Well, you both know that I'm afraid of commitment," I said while staring at the cup in my hands. Neither of them said anything but watched me. They knew that there was more to it, so they waited for me to continue. "He only wants me for my body, that I'm only there when he needs me for sex," I said quietly while glaring at the cup as I remembered his exact words. I heard a growl from beside me and a gasp from Serena. I looked up to see her eyes wide as she stared at me with horror. Anthony had a scowl on his face, and he looked like he wanted to murder someone. That asshole. No mate should be treated like that, male or female. He needs to be put in his place. He deserved that rejection. Serena snapped. "I don't care if he's the cruel alpha. I want to punch that face of his repeatedly until he's no longer conscious. He deserves to have his balls ripped off, twisted, and shoved down his throat. Then the hair on his head should be pulled out one by one." She looked as if she was ready to murder someone. Anthony, on the other hand, didn't say anything but glare at the wall ahead of him. I didn't do anything but stare at the table. "Has Riker marked you yet?" I asked Serena curiously as we sat in her living room binge watching Teen Wolf while eating cookie dough ice cream. Taking her silence as a yes, I glanced at her through the corner of my eye and saw her blushing while shoving a huge mouth full of ice cream into her mouth. "He did." I accused, turned to face her fully, while a grin slowly spread across my face. She looked down at her bowl and shyly nodded, a smile growing on her face as well. "Did it hurt?" I asked curiously. "At first, yes, but after feels amazing. So pleasurable," she smirked inside at the memory. "At least it doesn't last. Now it always burns when he kisses or touches it. It is amazing." I couldn't help but wonder what it would feel like to be marked. Must be nice. I shrugged the thoughts away and continued listening to her story. After spending time with Serena, Anthony, and my family, I decided to head back to Parker's pack. Anthony, being the friend he is, offered to take me back. I didn't reject his offer because I really don't feel like going in the woods and being alone. I gave the address to Anthony, and he put it in the GPS before starting the car and pulling out of the parking space of the pack house. "Don't let Parker force you into anything," Anthony said quietly as he stared at the road ahead of us. It was quiet in the car except for the low volume of the radio. Usually we talk a lot. I don't know why it is so quiet. I nodded my head silently as I stared out the window. After moments passed, I decided to break the silence. Something has happened to Parker in the past. I wish I knew what. Maybe it has something to do with the way he's treating me. There is no way he'd open up to me, though, and he probably doesn't think I care. I did reject him after all. His attitude isn't the only reason why I did it. It is mostly because of me. I continued to stare sadly out the window, regretting everything I've done in the past when it came to partying in my old sex life. That was the time when I separated myself from my family. I broke rules and didn't listen to my parents. But I loved them and they loved me. I apologized once I realized what I was doing, and they forgave me. No one in my family brings that subject up, knowing how touchy that subject is when it comes to my old life in Cayenne. He was treated like family, and he threw it away. I shake my head at my thoughts and tune into whatever Anthony was saying. He's lucky to have you, you know, Anthony stated. He just doesn't realize. However, you are lucky to even have a mate. He whispered the last part, and I couldn't help but glance at him. Hurt was written clear on his face as he stared straight ahead with his lips pressed in a thin line. It seems as if he was more talking to himself than me. Realization hit me, and my eyes widened. You mean? I trailed off, not knowing what to say. As if knowing what I was going to say, he nodded his head sadly as his grip tightened on the steering wheel, so his knuckles turned white. I opened my mouth and closed it as no words came out. I saw her the day of graduation. He started, but I cut him off. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. He shook his head at me. No, I want to tell you, he replied before continuing. Well, I saw her after graduation ended, and she saw me. She was the most beautiful girl I had ever seen, and my wolf was going crazy. She had long flowing blonde hair, beautiful ocean blue eyes, and full pink lips. I got her number and gave her a call later. We were going on a run, getting to know each other, and we were attacked by rogues. She had been aggressively attacked, near death, while I was fighting rogues. After I killed them off, I killed the ones attacking her. She died in front of me, and it was the worst feeling ever. Until this day, I feel the emptiness inside of me. His voice cracked at the end. I felt my eyes glaze over as I swallowed the lump in my throat. I know that emptiness inside of me, but it is nowhere near as worse as Anthony's pain. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to say that I'm sorry or it's okay, because it is not. Losing your mate to death is the worst feeling to have as a werewolf. Sometimes I feel like you're my second chance of having a mate. His voice was barely a whisper, and my eyes widened in shock. W what? My voice was shaky as I turned to him. He glanced at me, his eyes meeting mine for a few seconds before facing forward. I do all the time. I thought you were my mate up until Alpha Parker showed up to our pack and stated that you are his mate. I didn't want to accept it, but I guess I got no choice. My hopes had been high, hoping that you had feelings for me, but when I flirted you would blow me off. I guess that's what made me even more attracted to you, he said quietly as he parked his car in front of Parker's house. He turned towards me and gave me a sad smile. He reached forward, and I felt his fingers reach for a strand of hair that had fallen out of my messy bun, and took it between his index finger and thumb. I'm happy if you're happy, he whispered. I opened my mouth to say something, but Anthony reached over and opened up my door for me. I stared at him before unbuckling my seatbelt. Thank you, Anthony. I thanked him as I started getting out of his car. He smiled at me before reaching over again and closed my door. I watched as he pulled away, and his car disappeared. I let out a sigh, not knowing what to think about this new information. Anthony likes me? I always thought it was just playful flirting. That didn't mean anything. I trudged to the front door and quietly opened it in hopes that Parker was asleep or in his office. I don't really feel like seeing him right now, especially when all I want to do is sit in my room, eat some Ben & Jerry's while watching some Teen Wolf. I stepped into the hallway, and it was dark. I couldn't see anything but was overwhelmed by the scent of Parker. I couldn't help but inhale it. As I moved to close the door, strong arms grabbed me and slammed my back into the now closed door. I gasped at the impact and found my eyes staring up at golden eyes. I felt small sparks of electricity on my wrists as large hands gripped them tightly, pinning them to the door. Where have you been? Parker growled out as he stared down at me. I gulped as his wolf was surfacing as his green eyes were now bright gold. I left a note. I went to my pack to visit them. I spluttered as I tried to free my wrist, but his grip on them tightened. I tried to ignore the warm feeling, and I knew that Parker could feel it too. He stepped closer to me so I could feel his chest pressed up against mine. He leaned down to smell my hair and growled, "Why do I smell another male on you?" He asked through gritted teeth. I couldn't see his face clearly from the dark, but I could see his perfect jaw clenched. I frowned at him. Well, I was hanging with my friends, Serena and Anthony. Anthony gave me a ride home, so I didn't have to run back in the dark. Parker growled at the last part. "I could have driven you back instead of that male." "Did he touch you?" I could feel the anger radiating off of him and couldn't help but feel a little scared. I mean, he's the big bad alpha, standing in front of me, angry. I attempted to free my wrist again, but it was no use. "No." I snapped, staring at his chest instead of his face, so he couldn't see through my lie. "Bullshit." "Excuse me?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're lying." "Don't lie to me. I can smell him all over you," he sneered. His eyes narrowed down at me. "I can't hug my friend?" I asked and laughed dryly. He stared down at me while I glared up at him. I didn't realize how close his face was to mine, and I could feel his minty breath hitting my face. My wolf wanted me to press my lips to his, but I immediately ignored her. He glared at me. "No," he replied curtly. I felt anger build up in me. Anthony was there for me during my troubles. He's extremely important to me, and I can't hug him. "Let me go." I spoke through gritted teeth as this time I tried even harder, trying to dig my nails into his skin. "No." He easily declined what he thinks is a request, but it was a demand. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep me from cursing him out. His grip on my wrist tightened, even more, causing me to let out a whimper from pain. "Let me go, you bastard." I shouted out as I had a sense of déjà vu of what was happening, except with Kyan instead. I felt tears fill my eyes at the memory and had such little hope that he wouldn't do what Kyan did to me. I then remembered rumors of Parker that Pax had spread that he took advantage of women who disrespected him, which scared me even more. Parker growled at me. "Don't speak to me like that," he gritted out. His eyes flamed with anger as I knew his wolf wanted to hurt me for disrespecting him. "Stop. You're hurting me." I cried out as I felt my hand become numb. Does he not realize what he's doing, or does he not care? Immediately, he let go of my wrists and stepped back. His eyes widened with realization. I brought my hands to my face and examined my wrists. There will definitely be bruises later. I glanced up at Parker through my tear-filled eyes. He stared down at me, guilt clear in his eyes as they returned to their normal emerald color. "I didn't realize," he stuttered. I glared at him angrily as the tears rolled down my cheeks. "You know, I thought that after I rejected you, you wouldn't be so cruel to me, and maybe you would realize how you've been treating me. I never thought that you would go as far as hurting me, but I guess I was wrong. I may be overdramatic about this, but I don't feel like getting hurt over and over again, breaking me even more than I already was. After the speech I gave you yesterday, I thought that you would think about it. Might as well let me go back to my pack, where I could be loved by my friends and family. I'm sorry if I'm not what you imagined as a mate. Sorry to be a disappointment. I deserve an explanation." I sidestepped him and started towards the stairs. When I reached them, I turned towards him. "Make sure you jerk off to someone other than me," I said before turning, and headed up the stairs, not waiting for his response. Chapter 22. Parker Mason POV. "Make sure you jerk off to someone other than me," she called from the stairs before heading up, not turning back. A weird feeling occurred within me. She heard? Did she see? I gulped at the thought. I was so tempted to follow her and apologize, but I knew she wouldn't listen to me. I don't blame her either. Here you go again, hurting her over and over again, My wolf spat angrily at me. I growled in response. You're the one getting mad because she disrespected us. All I cared about was the fact she came back so late, and how another male was around her. I argued with him. My wolf growled at me this time. I slowly made my way to my office. When I sat down at my desk, I raked my hand through my messy hair. I barely slept last night. Jasmine was all that was in my mind. I regret everything I've done to this woman. She doesn't deserve any of it. When I realized what I was doing to her, I was scared shitless. I haven't felt as guilty as I did at that moment. My anger got the best of me, and I needed to learn control. I was just some asshole who doesn't know how to love or treat anyone right. She deserves the truth, and I plan on giving it to her. Jasmine Davis. The next couple of days I spent in my room. I only left to get some food, and that was it. I was trying to avoid Parker, or anyone else for that matter. Plates of food has also been left at my door from the meals that I skip, which is every meal, because I'm stocked on food in here. I decided to take a shower. After showering, I changed into a pair of black short shorts and a navy blue tank top, while letting my wet, tangly hair just be wild. Quietly, I opened the door hoping that Parker was still gone, because I heard him leave early this morning. He was probably doing pack work. I noticed a plate of eggs, bacon, and some toast. I picked it up and quietly carried it down the stairs. As I rounded the corner, I stopped when I heard rustling in the kitchen. I slowly peeked into the kitchen and furrowed my eyebrows when I noticed a girl with jet black hair digging the fridge while humming Panic. At the disco, "Hello," I called out to the person. The girl digging in the fridge stood up and hit her head on the shelf before muttering some curse words. She turned around and looked at me with wide eyes. As she took in my appearance, and slow grin took over her face. It was then I realized how similar she looked to Parker. "You must be Jasmine." She held out for me to shake. I stared at her with furrowed eyebrows. Realization dawned upon her as her mouth formed an "Oh." "I'm Peyton, Parker's twin sister." I raised both my eyebrows. Parker has a twin sister? Or even a sibling? My thoughts drifted to my younger twin sisters. What a coincidence. "Hi." I slowly shook her hand, unsure what to say. "You must be Parker's mate, am I correct?" She asked as she turned back to the fridge and pulled out a can of soda. I nodded my head as I took a seat at the bar. She came and stood at the other side of the bar. She snatched some of my bacon, earning a glare from me. "If you're wondering why I'm here, I came because I heard that Parker found his mate, and I want to see her myself," she stated, answering my unasked question. Her green eyes were much more cheerful than Parker's, and I could tell that she is most likely the opposite of Parker. I nodded my head. "Yeah, I trailed off, not knowing what to say. Peyton chuckled as she watched me try to come up with something. "An asshole," she finished while raising an eyebrow. I let out a small laugh, one that I haven't let out in a while since I was back home. "Yeah." She continued to stare at me but didn't say anything. She didn't even try to hide the fact that she was. I continued eating, trying to ignore her stare. "What?" I finally asked through a mouthful of food. "Are you happy? Has he marked you yet?" She answered me with questions. I looked down at my plate and slowly shook my head. "I rejected him," I said quietly, not wanting to look up. Instead, I looked at my wrists, which now had nice purple bruises on them. She gasped as she said the bruises on my wrists. "He did this to you?" She took my hands and observed the bruises while her eyes were wide with shock. I slowly nodded my head but spoke before she could say anything. "He was angry at me for disrespecting him. He was just gripping him too hard." I scowled at the memory. Peyton glanced up at me before letting go of my hands. "Is this why you rejected him?" I shook my head. "No. I rejected him because he only wants me for my body," I responded before adding quietly. I'm also afraid of commitment. Anger flashed across her face, and her nose flared. That asshole. Wait till I get my hands on him. He knows that's no way to treat your mate. What was he thinking? I'm going to beat him up. Forget about him being alpha. She snapped as she crushed the can in her hand and threw it away in the pull-out trash can in the bottom cabinet. There might be a reason? I suggested, and she shrugged it off. A lot of things has happened to him in his past, she said once she calmed down. Her eyes now held sadness and my eyebrows furrowed. Her emotions changed quickly. Maybe he'll open up to you if you just give him a chance to explain. He isn't all just cold-hearted. There is still a small little soul in there with the same emotions as all of us. He's just really good at hiding them. He needs someone like you in his dark life. There is still light somewhere in there. I stared at her, not knowing what to say. She want me to give him another chance? I have had enough of his bullshit. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm curious to know what happened to him, but it's not my place to ask her instead of Parker. So there's a party tomorrow night, and I would like you to come with me. Peyton said as we were watching TV in the living room. She spent the whole day with me, which surprised me. I guess I've got a new friend. Turns out we are very similar. We have the same taste in guys. We both like the same music and shows. We both like to eat. The list could go on. She and Serena would get along great. Sure, I shrugged. It's not like I have plans or anything. She grinned at me before clapping her hands together. Great. We can go shopping together. We need to get you something sexy that will definitely have Parker needing a cold shower. I felt my cheeks heat up at her words, but nodded anyways, mirroring her grin. The sound of the front door opening caused a smile on my face to disappear. I felt my throat become dry and my stomach clench. Peyton glanced at me warily as we heard the footsteps come closer to the living room. Parker appeared around the corner, and he stopped when he noticed us in here. His eyes met mine, and he held them a few seconds before glancing at Peyton, but came back to mine. I scoffed at him, looking away. Hey, brother, she greeted him as she turned back to the TV. What are you doing here, Peyton? He asked with a frown on his face, while he narrowed his eyes at his sister suspiciously. I couldn't help but notice he was wearing loose jeans that hung loosely on his hips, while wearing a black t-shirt that clung tightly to his body. His black hair was messy on his head, which was tempting to run my fingers through. Shit, I'm checking him out. What? I can't see my brother's dear mate, she asked while shooting him a glare. Parker looked at me again, and I quickly looked away, hoping he didn't see me checking him out. He didn't say anything but turn on his heel and leave. Peyton called out to him, Yeah, you better walk away. I laughed silently at her. Where has she been all this time I've been alone? We continued watching TV as it continued to become later at night. You should ask Parker to come with us to the party, Peyton suggested. I glanced at her before looking back at the TV. Why? Maybe you'll get to know Parker better. You never know. Maybe tease him a little and show him what he's missing, she responded nonchalantly. I pondered that idea. I guess it would be fun to tease him, but that means I'd have to be around him. I scowled at that. My wolf spoke for me instead. Okay? What the hell? I growled at Irene. I think we should spend more time with our mate, she replied. I internally groaned at her. There is no way I'm getting out of this. I'm just going to wait till the last minute to tell him. So then he would say no, because it's too late. I smirked at the idea. Peyton and I continued watching TV until it was midnight. She decided that she would sleep on the couch, and I went back to my room. The hallway upstairs was pitch black, and I knew that Parker was probably asleep. When I opened my door, I noticed that my bedside lamp was on and dimmed. That is not what caught my eye. What caught my eye was the beautiful red rose laying on my pillow. This was the third one I have gotten. My brows furrowed as I walked over to it. I picked it up careful not to touch the thorns, and carried it to the other two. I couldn't help the small smile that graced my lips. Obviously, it was Parker's doing, but why? I changed into another pair of shorts and a tank top before brushing my teeth. I then climbed back into my bed, glancing at the roses, before turning my light off and laid on my side. Before I slipped off into sleep, I heard the sound of my door creaking open. I felt my bed dip behind me, and I couldn't really tell as I was too tired to think clearly. I felt a presence behind me, an arm snake around my body, pulling me toward a warmer and bigger body. I felt the sparks, and I couldn't help but feel safer. I was overwhelmed by Parker's strong, addicting scent as he kept me close to his body, as if afraid I would disappear. I was too weak at this point to get mad and struggle against him, but a part of me wouldn't let me as well. I felt to move my hair away from my neck and nuzzle his nose into it, inhaling my scent before whispering, "Mate, this dress is perfect for you," Peyton exclaimed as she held out a black dress. I didn't see it fully, but she shoved it toward me and pushed me into the changing room. I chuckled as I closed the curtain. I took my clothes off and slipped the dress on. The dress went down mid-thigh and hugged my curves tightly. It had a sweetheart neckline and straps over my shoulders. I smiled at myself in the mirror. "You done yet?" Peyton called from outside, and I answered her with a yes, before pulling the curtain back. A grin formed on her face as she took me in. She squealed, making me jump a little. "It's perfect. That will definitely make Parker want you to get in his pants." My cheeks flamed at her comment as I let out a laugh. My mind then drifted to last night. When I woke up this morning, nobody was there except me. I couldn't help but wonder if it was my imagination. "I'll get it," I said as I went back into the changing room. I changed back into my normal clothes and went to the cash register after finding a pair of black heels to go with the dress. Peyton picked her dress too. It was a navy blue color and had a slit down the side of it, showing off her long leg. I didn't have long legs, I was short, but I didn't really care. I'm happy with myself and wouldn't want it any other way. Actually, that is a lie. I wish I was taller. We got into Peyton's car, and she drove us to Starbucks. We entered and ordered ourselves some coffee. "Peyton!" A girl's voice shouted from across the door. Peyton turned toward the source, and a smile grew on her face. I turned too and saw a girl with fiery red hair walking towards our table with two girls behind her. One had jet black hair and chocolate-colored skin, while the other one had blonde hair that fell just below her shoulders. "Hey, girls." Peyton grinned at them. The girl with blonde hair was first noticed me, and she smiled. "Hi, I'm Vivian." I returned her smile. "Jasmine." I introduced myself. This time it was the dark-haired girl's turn to speak up. "You're Alpha Parker's mate?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I slowly nodded my head, and she smiled brightly at me. "I'm Kennedy," she said cheerfully. Lastly, to introduce herself, was a girl with the fiery red hair, stuck her hand out to me. "I'm Riley." I smiled at her. "You're very pretty, Jasmine." Kennedy gushed as flashed me a smile. "Thank you," I responded. Riley and Peyton fell into deep conversation, so I was stuck talking to Vivian and Kennedy. "Are you going to the party tonight?" Vivian asked curiously. I nodded my head. "Yeah, I am." "Is Alpha Parker coming?" Kennedy asked. I shrugged my shoulders. I honestly didn't care if he came as long as he didn't stick around me. But I wouldn't want any other female around him either. I frowned at my thoughts, quickly brushing them away. We all chatted for a while, until it was about 4 in the afternoon. I invited the girls to get ready at my place, assuming Parker wasn't going to be there. It's not like I care anyways. Maybe if he isn't there, I don't have to invite him. We all piled into Peyton's car and drove back to my place after going to their houses to get their things. I opened the door to the house when I realized the door was unlocked. "Is anyone here?" Riley asked from behind me as I walked into the house. I shrugged my shoulders and motioned for them to follow me up the stairs to my room. We each took turns using my bathroom to change. I took a shower, though. Once we all changed, we started on makeup. Peyton, however, wanted to do my hair and makeup. She curled my straight hair, which fell into neat curls down my back. She did a smoky eye and winged my eyeliner. Lastly, she applied a natural color lipstick to my lips. She grinned as she looked her doings. "You look sexy." She squealed as she turned me, so I faced a mirror. A smile slowly appeared on my face. I looked different, a good different. I complimented her on her outfit. She was definitely going to catch some eyes tonight. Her and the other girls. The other girls had finished, and now it was time to get Parker. Go get him. Peyton snapped as she pushed me toward the door. I gulped nervously as she shut my door, so I couldn't get back in. "This is my room, you know." I snapped back, which earned a laugh from the girls inside my room. Nervously, I turned on my heel and started towards Parker's office. Silently hopping he wasn't there, because I have no luck whatsoever. I smelled his scent on the other side of the door. I slowly lifted my hand and knocked on the door, instantly regretting this. I heard a muffle come in, taking that as my cue to walk in. I don't know why I'm nervous. Taking a deep breath, I boldly walked in. My eyes looked around the room before landing on a large desk and my mate sitting behind it. He was looking at paperwork. I walked up to his desk and stopped in front of it. Slowly, he lifted his head, and when it took my appearance, they widened before darkening. I bit my lip as I watched his atoms apple bob up and down as he swallowed. His eyes finally met mine while he clenched his jaw. "Peyton and her friends and I are going to party, and Peyton wanted me to ask you if you want to come," I said, trying to sound as bored as possible, internally hoping he'll say no. I watched as his eyes wandered down my body. I cleared my throat, and his eyes snapped back up to mine. "Why are you wearing that?" he asked instead of answering my question. I shrugged my shoulders carelessly. "Because I want to." He frowned at my response before narrowing his eyes. "Sure." "What?" I asked, raising both my eyebrows. "I'll go." I frowned at him, which earned a smirk from him, before turning on my heel and leaving. I could feel his eyes on mine, so I snapped at him, "Stop staring at my ass." Right before I closed the door, I heard him say, "Then stop flaunting it." I felt my cheeks burn as I walked back to my room. I opened my door, and all heads turned to me. "What did he say?" Riley asked. "He said yes," I answered dully. Peyton laughed at my expression before turning back to the makeup and continued putting it away. "The party starts at 8, and it's about 7:30 right now, so we should start heading out," Peyton stated. We all nodded in agreement and headed out of my room and down the stairs. As we were walking out the door, I silently hoped that we could just ditch Parker, but he was already coming down the stairs. I scowled at him before hurrying down the driveway, making sure not to trip. My frown deepened when I noticed Vivian in the passenger seat. I smirked when I realized there wasn't enough seats. "I guess he's stuck here." "I guess you're stuck sitting on my lap." A husky voice spoke in my ear. I felt my cheeks redden while the girl smirked. I threw a glare over my shoulder at Parker, whose smirk widened. I felt hands snake around my waist and pull me out of the way before I was placed on Parker's lap. "Don't touch me," I hissed at him. I readjusted my position, which was a bad move because I felt him stiffen. "Stop," he growled low in my ear. I turned and glared at him. "I'm trying to get comfortable." I snapped at him. I sighed as I leaned my head against the window. He's impossible. I just want to punch him in the face right now. I glanced at the bruises that were slowly fading away on my wrists. They were almost gone because I'm a werewolf and it goes away quickly. I felt a lump in my throat form as I stared at my wrists. Quickly shrugging it off, I tuned into the girl's conversation. I felt a nose brush against my neck, causing me to jump a little. "Stop touching me!" I growled at Parker. Peyton laughed from the driver's seat. "No sex in my car," she said. I glared at her when she glanced at me through the mirror. Parker chuckled from behind me, and I elbowed him. "Asshole," I muttered under my breath. Everyone in the car became silent, and I scoffed. They probably didn't like the face that I disrespected their alpha, but he is, in fact, an asshole. The only one who laughed or even chuckled was Peyton. She is probably the only one who doesn't care, because Parker is her brother. Parker is acting different, and I don't know what to think of it. He was so cold to me and ignored me, but now he kept on trying to touch me. As soon as the car stopped at the house where the party was being held, I got out quickly so I didn't have to deal with Parker. I was the first one into the house and was welcomed by very loud music and a bunch of sweaty bodies dancing. The smell of alcohol filled my nose. Werewolves have the ability to consume more alcohol before getting drunk. But seeing drunk werewolves isn't really a pretty sight. I felt a hand grab my wrist. I turned around with a groan, as I already knew who it was. "What?" I snapped impatiently. He glared at me, probably not liking my tone, but I really don't give a damn. "You're staying by my side," he stated. I scoffed. It more sounded like a demand to me. "You can't just order me around," I pointed out as I glared at him. His eyes narrowed at me. "I am your alpha. You will listen to me." I yanked my wrist away from him. "You are not my alpha. I rejected you if you don't remember." I snapped. I placed both my hands on my hips. An emotion flickered across his face, but it disappeared as soon as it came and was replaced with no emotion at all. Instead, he took a step towards me. I unconsciously took a step back. He took another step and lowered his face by my ear. "There is no way I'm letting you walk around wearing that, so you can flaunt yourself to all the unmated wolves here, or any of the humans. You will stay by my side. There is no escape from me, and I'm sure you wouldn't find out what I would do to anyone who touches you other than me," he whispered darkly in my ear. I felt my wolf cower back at the tone of his voice. It was sickening and deadly. I gulped. I don't know what compelled me to do so, but I nodded. "Good." He nodded curtly before placing his hand on the small of my back. I stiffened as he gently pushed me to go forward. He led me past the dance floor where people were dancing to the song downtown. It was dark in the room, and all you could see was lights flashing and a little bit of smoke. We reached the kitchen where there was a bar and the drinks. I walked toward the bar, leaving Parker's side. The bartender walked over to me and flashed me a smile. He had blonde hair and pretty blue eyes. I looked at his name tag, which said Alex. "What would you like?" I returned the smile. "I'll take a shot, please." He sent me a wink, coming right up. A growl sounded from behind me, and I couldn't help but roll my eyes. It was obvious that Alex was human. I felt a hand grip my waist, pulling me to their side. I sent a glare towards Parker and tried to escape his grip. "Don't touch me," I hissed at him. Alex came back with my order, and I made a move to pick it up, but Parker grabbed it before I did and drank it instead. I frowned at him. "What the hell?" I snapped at him. "You shouldn't drink that," he stated, turning to leave, but I didn't move. I crossed my arms over my chest, and his eyes drifted towards it, and his eyes darkened. "Why can't I drink it? It's not like I haven't drank before. I can handle it." I looked over at Alex and ordered another shot. When he handed it to me, Parker took it again, which earned another glare from me. This guy is unbelievable. What the hell is his problem? I asked for one more, and once again, Parker took it. Now I was mad. Instead of ordering another shot, I just asked for some soda, which Parker didn't take. He had a satisfied look on his face as he watched me scowl at him. The kin was wet from the cooler it was in, so I decided to ask for a napkin. Alex came back with a napkin and handed it to me. My brows furrowed as I noticed writing cheeks were tinged pink. Parker took a step towards me and snatched the napkin away from me while sending Alex a death glare. His eyes widened in fear before quickly turning to someone else to take their order. Really? I snapped at him while glaring at him. What is your problem? Do you really have to be that overprotective? A muscle in his jaw ticked as he glared at me. He took another step towards me before trapping me against the counter. He stared down at me. I suddenly hated my height. Why do I have to be so short? You are only mine, he growled out, his voice low and dangerous. I shivered at our close proximity before ducking under his arm and escaping to another room.